Appreciate everyone coming this morning, and it looks like we have, yeah, definitely a bar, so we're good. We are missing, unfortunately, Brett and Garrett still. Do we know if that's coming, John? Yes, okay, good. Garrett is tied up on out-of-town work, so he apologized, sent his apology to everyone. Let's go ahead and start by asking for approval of the agenda. Is there anything that needs to be added to the agenda? No? Okay, then I ask if I could have a motion to approve. And a second? Thank you. Barbara? Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay. And then we need to move on to approving the consent agenda, consisting of the September 28th regular meeting minutes. Okay, Emily, and a second,
Second.
Chris, on favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? No. Okay, good. So we're gonna jump right in. First off, no public, no one that I see from the public, so no public comment. Okay, good. We have, let's see, Clay, I guess, so you must be doing our event report.
Sure, yes. Been along with a few things here. At the Friends of Richmond Public Library August 3rd meeting, they met with Dee Patterson, a nonprofit consultant who has started the Friends on some assignments for refreshing their board. And she basically came in that meeting and did a presentation. She had already done her homework and was well aware of kind of what the Friends were about. And so I think everyone decided to go with her and have her take these steps a little further. So we're excited about that. They've also welcomed a new board member in David Cups, and had a very successful book drive on September 17th. And there's a lot of activity on the mezzanine of the main library right now, trying to process that. There were literally just scads of donations brought in on that Saturday. And as along with that, they're working on a new system for reviewing donations that comes into the Friends, that for inclusion not only in our own catalog, but also might possibly be things that would belong in special collections. So we're working with them to kind of get a process and procedure in place for that will allow us to move forward together. Thank you.
Questions? Okay, it sounds like things are moving right along there. Okay. I don't think so.
Susan is out, and I have her report.
Okay.
Foundation is happy to welcome a new board member named Brian Childress, and he's from Dominion Energy. So I don't know if any of you knew James Beasley. He'll replace the spot that James served for a long time. And we're looking forward to working with Brian. Big news is we're pleased to share that we were approved by the Commonwealth of Virginia campaign charity. So I believe that's the campaign that if people want to make donations through their taxes or other things, they can do that in the state of Virginia. We received, you'll notice in your packet, there is a letter that we received.
Page 25.
Page 25, and that was to honor Mr. Bloom Boss. That donation was a $10,000 gift that came in from your sister, and that was for the Belmont Branch Library. So that's a very generous and thoughtful legacy gift that you really use at the Belmont in some way. So that was nice.
How much was it?
$10,000. We also received a $60,000 grant from the Robbins Foundation. That is to expand RV reads, and that grant will help us purchase more books to distribute, as well as hire someone to help Barbara enact that program. As you know, what she does is she works with all the Head Starts in Richmond Public Schools She visits those every month and delivers them a book. She gets volunteers to demonstrate reading skills to youth, and then the youth get to take those books. So we'll be able to expand that program a little bit more and have a little more impact. So that's a big step up for us. Last year, Robbins Foundation gave us 10,000, so they upped that grant for 2022. Any questions on that? Foundation is planning busy this summer.
Move right on.
All right.
I'll say it.
You'll notice that we have been hiring. We we're in the process of finalizing part-time positions for Broad Rock to expand those hours. We were not able to get Broad Rock open on Sundays in September because of some delays with budgeting and hiring and HR. We're hopeful to get those positions in place in October and get that going. We were able to get all of our branches open 2 nights a week, so every location has 2 nights. Every branch location has 2 nights. Hull Street and North Avenue are the ones that we had struggled with in the beginning of July to get them open. They're now open 2 nights a week. As well as all the other main library open 4 nights. Also need to announce that Ms. Wilmore, who's been the branch manager for 8 years, has been pulled over to the Human Services portfolio to serve in that homeless liaison position. She's been serving a dual role in that for the last 1.5 years, and so they were able to fund that office, and they're going to kick that off in this fiscal year. So she was pulled over in the middle of this month. And I want to introduce Mr. Craig Gilwalker. He's going to be our acting branch manager here. Craig was hired in July. He started off as our youth service associate, and if you just want to maybe stand up and tell a little bit about yourself, Craig.
Hello, everybody. I've spoken with some of you today, and I hope to speak with all of you by the time you're all here today. I started my library journey around 2010 as a computer literacy instructor with the Miracle Roanoke City Public Library. And I was a library associate and youth librarian off and on there up until last year when I moved here. I took a position at JSARJ for a second, learned I wasn't a community college librarian, and wanted to come back to the public library. I just want to say I'm very excited to be in this position and work with North Avenue and this beautiful community we have here. I'm excited to work with all of you to help grow North Avenue and help show this community that the library is here for it, and that we want the patrons and the community to view the library as kind of a centerpiece of this neighborhood. And that's going to be our next goal throughout the few months. So, if you have any questions or inquiries, please feel free to talk to me, give me a call, come in and speak with us. Me and my staff are wonderful. We love talking about it. Thank you all.
Thanks, Craig. We're just pleased to have you and appreciate you stepping up and taking over in just such short notice. And we're thrilled. So, thanks for that. So access hours are expanded. We're still working on the master plan. I'm going to let Janet talk a little bit about that in the facilities report. You'll notice in your packet, I'll give you a brief update. I'm going to ask Clay to help me out on the RPL 100. It's not in my report. So RPL 100, you'll see that the read up program this year, we are very pleased to announce that we have Marlon James coming, who is very renowned on media. Clay is the one who put all this together. He's been working on it for about 6 months, and let us know why. Tell us why you picked Marlon James, and a little bit about that.
Yes, we looked at Marlon James back in 2019, actually, for our inaugural edition of Read Up, and that went in a different direction with Justin Ford, but we always do. We'd love to have him if the opportunity became available. And you may remember Mr. James won the 2015 Man Booker Prize, and as such was the first Jamaican American to do so. And since then, he published a half a dozen books, and most recently his book was out this year. It's always a consideration that we try to find somebody that's got a publication within the calendar year for our program. And the second of his planned trilogy, called the Dark Star trilogy, is fantasy, and he's got a number of different things going on right now, but we landed on him because if you've ever seen a presentation by him or seen him on a panel, he's very charismatic, very insightful in his conversation, and we've got a good host slash interviewer facilitator for the program, and Jill Hamilton, who is at the University of Virginia currently. She's associate professor of literature there, and I sought her out because Michelle has written on Mr. James before. She's they're from the same place, and I think they went to same university, just different campuses. But I think they both attended the University of West Indies. But she's written academically, scholarly, I should say, rather, on James's work, and she was altogether excited to come down and to be a part of the program this year. So we're really looking forward to it, and I think we'll be able to keep the high bar that we've set in terms of the focus, the authors that we brought into this program. This will be the fourth one, only the second since the because of the COVID interruptions. This won't be only the second one that we've had in person. And so I hope everybody can get it on the calendars.
What's the date, Clay?
come to be there. I'm sorry.
The date?
November 15th. We're going to have a little. You all will be invited. A little reception. It'll take place at 6 o'clock to around 6:45 or so, and the program itself will be held in the auditorium at the main library at 7 o'clock.
Great.
On Tuesday, November 15th.
Tuesday, November 15th, and that will coincide with almost the exact date that the library was founded, which was November 16th, 1922. And so we'll be celebrating the 100-year anniversary of the Richmond Public Library, the founding of it. We'll be inviting friends, past board members, our fans, everybody who would like to come. And the read-up will be kind of the big event that people can attend after this celebration that we have. To say a few words, and it'll really kick off our year of honoring Richmond Public Library and celebrating our history. We only turn 100 once, and so this is our chance. In your packet, one of the things that staff have been working on all summer, I asked the committee to come up with ideas to do, programs. Read Up was the natural first kickoff that coincided exactly with the date that we wanted to celebrate it. And throughout the year, we will be having events on an ongoing basis. One of the things we'll be celebrating is we'll have an exhibit in January, which will detail images, pictures, stories of Richmond Public Library. That'll be at the main library. We'll be creating some very large banners that will be displayed on the outside of the building. They'll also travel around to many branches. And at that time, we'll be pinning a project where we'll be collecting oral histories and video histories of people who have been benefited from Richmond Public Library, the stories of what's happened in our libraries, how we have helped people, what people have learned from us. So we'll be doing that throughout the year. So a group will be working on that throughout the year. So capturing stories and memories of Richmond Public Library. We have a long, deep history, and this is our chance to kind of capture something and remember something. So that'll be pretty much the first 6 months. We'll be looking for banners, information, events, programs, ongoing about the 100-year anniversary. And one of the things that we're narrowing down is not in front of you is this. These are 3 logos that we want to use for branding throughout the year, and the committee's going to finalize it, but this is what we've narrowed it down to. And the first one is we're capitalizing on Centennial. That's one option. Second one is the 100th. And then the third one is a variation of kind of each one. So we would like this to become our logo that'll appear on all of the stuff that we do throughout the next year. Any thoughts, first look, what do you think? One stands out more than another? B? B?
B. Well, 100 instead of centennial, the number instead of the word.
You all like, so we went back and forth on that because centennial is kind of a special word, but it's kind of a big, it's kind of a $10 word is what some people described it to me. 100th is kind of nice, but we didn't want to do 100th and centennial, so we kind of went back and forth. So we're gathering some feedback. We want to decide on it because we want to start branding things. I think that's where we landed.
It is a good word.
It is a good word, but it may be too much.
The logo, yeah. The logo should really jump out, yeah, and
Instead of
you don't
word.
have to think about the logo.
This looks like forward.
Okay.
Is it, I'm thinking out loud, is it redundant? Is it good the way it is, or, in terms of that, I think there are most people think too. Without, because it seems a little redundant to me if you put the years down there. If we did, 1920 to 2022, is that unnecessary?
On this,
Mhm.
not necessary on this, but.
Yeah, we had one version of it and it kind of looked like twos.
The only thing about that is just.
Okay.
Maybe more of a sentiment
Okay.
than closing.
The other thing, just to confuse matters completely, is often when you're coming up with a special year brand, you will take your existing brand and add something to it to make it special, so that you're building on your brand, but you're adding 100 or the day,
Mhm.
whatever. And this is not our brand. This is not our logo. It's just a common practice. Maybe not appropriate here, but
But
Well, I
it seems
think
like
we took that into consideration, and we also looked at Brooklyn. Brooklyn Public is celebrating 125 years. And they've transitioned to a different logo, and that's what's appearing on all of their stuff. One of the things is, we're not real crazy about our current logos, so we were thinking of the transition to this year, a new brand, a new 100 logo, and then coming out of 23, maybe a brand new logo. So these are our colors. So if you look at these colors, these are colors that appear in our current logo. So blue and gold is one of the colors that you'll see throughout our logo. So we reflected back on that. But I've had a lot of people say they don't like our logo, the logo is book centric, maybe we need something new. So one of the ideas was maybe we go to a 100-year logo, and then in 24, we come out with a new logo. Maybe we do a new marketing thing, or we go back to the old logo. We have options.
So what's on the app?
it's on your bag.
It's on your bag. So if you look at it, it's a book with
Yeah.
stars flying out of it.
The blue on the app.
Right, it's on the app. And so you see how it's kind of a difficult logo to work with, especially in different things. So that's something we were kind of, we may or may not. So, okay, good point. So if you have other feedback, let me know. We want to get it decided pretty quickly because we want to start making the branding.
Sure, of course.
November 15th is a month and a half away, and so this will move us, launch us forward. Any other questions on that? Foundation is also working on some opportunities to fundraise around. They'll be coming out. Something that's not in my report that I want to add is our summer reading program in 22 closed out in August. We had 3,842 people register, and we had 2,191 complete. And that is almost double what we did in 21. So in 21, we had 1,987 register and only 831. That's really great progress, and I think it shows how we're slowly coming out of the pandemic. You'll notice, there's a book in a bag, and it's the organ thief. That is our BCU common book this year. Tomorrow night, there will be a program at the main library, and it'll be a conversation from Joel Newman, who is an executive at UNOS. UNOS is the organ donation center, and they're gonna have a discussion with the medical student Gabe Thomas. This book has really caused a lot of, there's been a lot of news on this lately, and it's an exciting opportunity to talk about equity, diversity, and inclusion, and also equality, and how it merges with the medical field, and how we have advancements in health and wellness, and all those things. So it's quite a story. I think that covers, this month is national, we've had library card sign up month, so you saw Ripple was at many of our locations. And also midway through this month, we kicked off, I think it's Hispanic Inclusion Month. What is Hispanic Heritage Month started September 15th, and it goes to October 15th. So it's kind of I've never seen a celebration month and cover 2 months, so kind of neat. And we've got programs around that as well. Staff Development Day is coming up October 10th. So we'll have a training and staff converge at the main library. We'll be talking about strategic plan, the master plan, many of the things that we've been working on all summer, as well as just some general training and letting them, informing them about what we'll be doing during the 100-year anniversary. August and September. Any questions?
Okay, we've got the chair report down next, and actually, I don't have a lot that I want to report. I think a big focus from my perspective right now is how we're going to do advocacy going forward, and looking at some things, talking to some of the board members individually, figure out what role different people can take. I'd like to thank Chris for excellent presentation that she sent. Did that end up going out to everybody? No, okay.
Think so.
Which was an ALA remote learning.
Yeah. What was their
seminar.
it was their United for Libraries, which is their foundation, trustees, and friends are. So ALA subcommittee, yeah.
So it's an excellent
I
presentation.
just sent it to you.
Send it to me. Okay, excellent presentation. And I've been sort of using that as it jogs things in my mind as to where we might want to go and how we can formalize it. We were talking about the need to have advocacy being the primary goal here, also the primary goal with the foundation in a way, friends have its own aspects of advocacy. So we're trying to figure out how to do this. And a couple of things I'm going to point out real quick to you. That as they pointed out, the public funding is by far the largest amount of funding for any library, any public library. You know, they maybe have fantastic foundations, but they're doing supplemental or they're doing projects. And that, you know, they say 2 to 5% of the library's budget. So the city and their support absolutely critical, not just for our day-to-day, but also for the master plan direction. So both of those important. They point out every elected official loves libraries. And I thought, yeah, that almost goes without saying. I think we've all been hearing that. We've sat down, we've met with city council members and people, and universally, nobody, when you sit down and talk to them, says something bad about libraries. They might say, oh, I wish they were open more. They might say, I wish you had more of the current books in, but nobody says, you know, I just think libraries are a waste. Okay. On the other hand, you've got to have somebody, even though everyone loves it, they've got to see that the current funding is not out. Those officials, the people that say, I love libraries, you know, they've got to understand that loving libraries is wonderful, but you also need to sort of belly up to the bar and support them a little bit. There's got to be a little bit of money there with it and so on. So I think that's something, they said squeaky wheel gets the oil. And I think we've done that this past year. Gail had a program 5 or 6 years ago that we did it, very well. But it's that start, stop, start, stop. We can't do that, and be completely effective. And then from the foundation side, the comment in there that to get funds, from the private sector, they've got to know that the public sector is supporting. And that's true with any, like when the foundation goes out. They want to be able to say every one of their members contributes. It's nice if they say every one of our members contributes, you know, so that they know that everybody who's asking for money is also supporting. Okay, so natural advocates are the library board and other advisors, but they really highlighted it. It sounds a little bit crass, but I'm going to say that elected officials listen closely to messages of influential, well-connected residents. We like to think that, you know, all of us can call our city council person, whatever, and get the same hearing, but there's some probably who get more than the average ones of us do. So I think one of the things that I'd like to ask all of y'all about is as we put together a regular advocacy program that's rolling through constantly, do you know people who are really supportive of the library, but they don't even serve on the board, we don't even serve on the foundation, but who think highly of it and also have a high community stature and might be willing to join you at a meeting with a city council person or with somebody in the mayor's office or whatever. So if you do, we'd like to tap some of those people to be part of this ongoing effort. Standing advocacy committee, we haven't done it that way in the past, and I think that's a really good idea. I think, you know, they mentioned who to chair it's on. My information right now is that Garrett and either Sharon or Brent, depending upon how Sharon feels about it. I talked to Garrett about it. He's willing to do it. And I know I've already tapped you, Sharon, to be vice chair, so I don't want to overwhelm, but I think, yeah, think about it. Okay, we'll talk more about it. So we will be putting someone for that. And then the library staff, Craig, I'll mention, they suggest that y'all can identify patrons who are politically active. I don't know how you identify them. They may come in and talk about it. They may, you know, be outside when the political things going on, whatever. When they say that, you know, suggestions that you may identify patrons who are politically active, and that probably comes from conversation. People that come in and talk to you a little bit and say, you know, do you have, Ann Land, and could help with that type of discussion. Okay. So I'd like to ask you to sort of keep that in mind with your staff. And then we need to start this soon because, well, we're not at the budgeting period yet. We get the best, and we want to not be coming in and just saying, "Oh, you're in the middle of budgeting, but we need money."
My biggest takeaway from that whole program was, I was presenter stressed that you need to speak to them outside of budget. You need to go, and you all have been doing a great job of that, letting them know what's happening at the library. I've noticed many of the counselors have put in their messaging or their notifications that, hey, the library hours have expanded. That's because you guys are letting them know what's going on. And outside of budget time, because they have so many people lining up at their door in January and February to talk to them about what their needs are, what their deficiencies are. You know, when we go this time of year, or we go in the summer when it's slow and there's nothing going on, you say, hey, thank you. This is what's going on. We appreciate how you helped us. And that's what this guy said. It was the biggest thing.
And I will say, I think we did a good job after the budget was approved of thanking everybody. Yeah, I hope. I mean, I think most of us reached out and did that, people. We don't need to call them thank them per se. So, you know, you don't want to repeat what we just did. But I think getting in touch with those people again, talking about, okay, so we have gotten to 2 nights a week at the branches. We have gotten Maine open 4 nights a week. You know, just some of these very specific things you can talk about. So once again, you know, want to let you know that, thank you for it. And by the way, you know, if you're doing a local meeting, a district meeting, as an example, I'm going to speak at next Tuesday's first district meeting to, you know, they'll have our school board rep, Liz Dora, will be there, and our city councilman, and probably some police department. Typically, you get, you know, those 3. And there's no reason that once or twice a year, somebody from the library can't be there and say, hey, here's what we're doing. And so if you've got thoughts, you know, you people in the meeting, talk to us. There's something you're not seeing in the library. It's a two-way street there on that. It's not just telling them what we're doing. And I think that helps a lot. So one last thing I'm going to say, and we might ask Chris for some help on this, but they suggest a printed piece. I think we've had a good cheat sheet we've used ourselves. I don't know that it's ready to be handed over and said, here it is. And I think we probably need to try to incorporate, polish up our cheat sheet that we use to guide us to be something that stands on its own. Somebody can read and just have takeaway. Okay. So anyway, that's my number one thing. I went to the Broad Rock opening and I got a chance to meet Rich. I appreciated that. I thought that, not the opening, the whole street, I'm sorry, Broad Rock, yeah, I'm sorry,
Broad
no,
Rock was the foundation.
when Melvin came and spoke at that, I think she was starting to do, and she spoke a little bit. And I thought that was really nicely attended. I wanted to thank board members, Janet and some others who came out to that. Garrett was there at that. It was really just a nice show of support from both the foundation board and our board to that community. I think that we probably had many people from the multiple boards. Ruth was there, Clay was there, as community members almost. So it was a little overwhelming. They saw that we were really behind. And then I wanted to mention that Broad Rock Christian Foundation at their last meeting. And that was a really interesting meeting to hear some of the different things they're doing. I think Foundation and we are very much in sync on a lot of the projects going forward in the direction. Yes, those are the main things I was going to. We'll hear from Janet on that, so I won't go into anything on the facilities. Any questions for me before we get Dr. Thorson on finance? Garrett's not here, and once again, he apologized, but he said, tell us everything about finance.
Oh, I'll just throw in that inviting our city council person to the event. It's a good opportunity to check in.
Yeah, we'll have formal invitations that'll get mailed out and then we'll contact them to let people know because we want to be able to hopefully promote read up, but also promote that it's our 100th anniversary. And that'll be a nice opportunity for us to talk about what we're doing and build upon the case that we started making last year. You know, we have a long way to go, but we just have to keep chipping away at it. That was the case I made. It's a great transition in the budget. We've kicked off the new fiscal year. I've explained to the budget and finance department that you reduced our numbers from 89 FTEs to 69 FTEs. We need to get those positions back. And how do we get a plan going forward to restore that funding? And so they've heard that. We'll keep making that case. And now is the time we start making that case. And so again, the fiscal year's kicked off. We're still transitioning over. They're preparing the audit. So finance department mainly focused on getting their audit complete. And budget got all of their things done. So closing out fiscal year 2021 as we move into 22. As we approach the end of the year, this is the time to say, to remind them, hey, we've been moving forward on what we promised. We're delivering. We want to do more. So how do we begin to start those conversations, especially with our council people on that avenue? And the budget side, we're still making the case to explain. The CIP, Construction Improvement Progress, that program starts today. This afternoon, I have a meeting with all of the department heads, how we're going to start crafting the new CIP. That won't come to be until March of 2023. So the information that we've gathered from the master planning process will begin to start appearing in that document. So the goals and objectives of that plan and then the future studies of that plan begin to appear.
Okay, budget, anything else? We're pretty much on target. Everything looks like
Yeah.
it's running.
If you look at the report,
It looks fine.
nothing's out of whack. Just getting off first quarter, right?
Okay, Janet, facilities?
Well, the good news is, August 15th, the City Planning Commission approved the master plan concept.
Yay.
So you may recall that the urban design committee had a lot of questions. Apparently, they all got
So in May, they met, they had questions. We met again in July, answered those questions. The architect resubmitted the report to them, made it, answered all their questions. Kind of explained that this is conceptual, it's not final plan. There was confusion at the UDC whether it was a final plan or a conceptual design. We sorted that out. That cleared up everything. August 15th, the planning commission that the UDC reports to approve the final plan. So that means we can now go forward and complete the final report. Steinberg Hart is working on that report. Gail and Janet and I have reviewed it. We've made comments. I've given that back to them. They need to do some more work on that document before there's a final document that's ready for us to present. We're not happy with it. It's not as convincing as we would like. We want more details in it that help us in our case that we need this conceptual design. Again, the city has asked us to do this process. All of our buildings are owned by the city. The city has identified the main library as one that is a 100-year-old building. There are systems in it that need to be replaced. There are features of it that need to be improved, and the city is supportive of this. That is what I'm hearing from the CIP commission. And so I am hopeful that as we begin the CIP process, that we will get the funding, and that will be my primary job, is taking this report and making that case so we can move to the next phase, which will be schematic design and more research and data gathering and feedback for a final design.
And with a different architect,
What's that?
with a different architect.
Right, and so we get the CIP project in there, it will be another, we won't necessarily use the same architect. There'll be another RFP process where we'll select another architect to take us forward in this next. And so I'm very supportive of that. I mean, I feel like I've learned a lot of things on this. I definitely want to have an architect that resides at least in the state that we're in. It would be helpful. They've done the best they can. It's gone on a little bit longer, and it's been a challenge to get the product that we want from them. So we'll continue to work on that, but it's not going to slow us down in terms of the CIP. We're going to keep pushing forward, and we're going to keep pushing forward to get the next step. And so the next step would involve an RFP to hire another architect, schematic design.
Well, thank you for being so positive about that, because I'm not feeling positive about getting this final report from Steinberg Hart. In fact, it feels like you mail something out and it comes back to you with postage due. So you work on it again and you mail it out and it comes back postage due. And it's just, I know you're frustrated, Gail's frustrated.
I'm sure that the analysis of the next RFP, that feedback
Oh, yeah.
gets considered.
Oh, yes.
But we do have to, unfortunately, this has come up, foundation obviously also. We have to muddle through with this for the moment, and you guys have been doing too much of the work with it,
Yes.
frankly. I mean, you've had to,
Well, for Steinberg, I love that.
well, for the whole bit. You guys have been, rewriting it with it to some
I
extent.
agree. I agree.
And that's unfortunate, but RFP process did not work real well for us, in this case.
Yeah, the master plan, and we've had a lot of challenges with it. The end result of coming up with concepts and ideas that we want to see in this future building, that's helpful. It's not, we don't have a final plan, but again, that's the process. Would I like to see it work better? Yes. But
And
we have to go forward with what we have.
And you may find that you have to, at some point, use that with some type of addendum. Now, what I'm concerned most about that is that it's really very innovative, interesting design, well backed up with analysis as to how you do it, why you do these different things, but that we may not have enough yet that sells on the need
that's
to,
what we hope the document. will
right,
help
I'm
us
not
with.
sure that. I'm not sure that they understand that, frankly. I mean, so you guys have been pushing them. We need to get to the point where we
Well, that's
either
been,
take what they have and use it or modify it.
well, and that's been the biggest, that's our biggest concern is it
Yeah.
doesn't identify the need as well as we would like. Like, it presents a nice conceptual vision and it has some feedback in it, but the case is not as strong as we'd like. That's what we're pushing them on.
Given that we're going to the CIP process.
Right.
My view of that is, we may have to say, this is all we're gonna get from them, and we may need to supplement.
Right.
So it's putting a lot on Janet and Gail.
Well,
And
But
Ben.
we wanted the document to look
It
good.
should, I know, I'm saying,
We'd like it to not be filled with typos.
but at some point, we may have to take what they have and add to, we can't have them coming back with the perfect one in July.
We've talked about
Okay,
it.
I mean,
How do we work around?
okay, so this, I appreciate y'all continuing to
And
work on
that's the
that,
case
is all
we're
I'm saying.
making the CIP is that there'll have to be funds allocated to do this.
Okay, we're gonna go to Emily, and then we'll come to Chris, who has the highlights of the meeting today. So. Emily?
Yeah, just one update. So in our last meeting, we mentioned that there would not be changes to committees. There is one change to that. The executive committee is made up of chair, vice chair, and 1/3 member. So Sharon will move on to the executive committee, replacing Chris. Gail was on the executive committee last year. Bill has asked me to serve as that third person on the committee this year, and I've agreed to do that. So executive committee this year will be Bill, Sharon, myself.
And I'd like to mention that some of these committees, we are sort of thin. I mean, it's just, someone's meant, particularly, we talk about advocacy, and we're just stretching it. Gail, you and I email back and forth, stretching it. It reminds me that if we have outside resources who want to help, we can use people who are not members of the board to do certain things. So I thought of somebody like former board member, Dave Lydia, who was over at the broadband thing. And, you know, he wasn't the whole thing. I keep doing that. Anyway, he was the whole big thing. And, you know, he has a nice north side connection. Do we have anybody here on north side? That's on north side. Barbara, okay. So Barbara, our north side one, maybe, you know, you and David can work on some stuff with that, or maybe we can press him into helping with some, just looking at where we have those contacts. And I think that's true with a lot of things, that if we need extra support on committees, we can step outside of it. So, just a reminder that came up. Okay, so Emily, we're good with that, I think, and Gail, Chris is going to talk about the early literacy project that he's given this an initial on, going to give us an update.
Thank you. And thank you to Janet and Gail for all you guys are doing. That's, you're the stars. You have a very pretty packet here, so that if you don't like, if you like to look while you hear, please feel free to just flip along with me. This is a project I undertook. The findings are mine. And that means any mistakes, any omissions, they are mine to be had. I will mention that I kept Beth Morris involved throughout the process, and I have briefed Scott. So it's a no surprise. I mean, we always work with our library team. That's the case here. But what you hear are my thoughts. And I'm calling it taking aim to do better. And you're going to see as we go through where the AIM aim is going to come from. And we're going to talk about purpose. We're going to talk about need. I'm a big need driver. We're going to talk about approach, challenges, and at next step, I'm going to throw out to you 2 ways we could move forward. It is open for discussion. It's open for reflection. We don't need to do anything, but I have two things I'm going to ask of you. Okay? So let's start about purpose. Why is it important to have a library with rich activities for birth to 5-year-olds? That is a question to the board.
So kids will love them.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that our community in particular doesn't get as much of that in the home as some of the surrounding. There's a gap there.
It is also a precursor to lifelong success, and I'm going to try and prove that to you. So let's start with setting the stage. One thing I learned is that we at RPL have very solid birth to 5 programming. And we have very solid leadership, knowledgeable, up to date. I was impressed. But we have some internal problems. We've been closed for months at a time because of COVID. We've had budget cuts for multiple years at a time. And we have lost staff or had positions frozen. These are not inconsequential problems. We also have external problems. They're calling the birth to 5 the quiet crisis, and they don't believe it's going to be quiet for long. And I'm going to prove to you why the crisis part is what to concentrate on. And I've talked to 30 partners who work in this area. Almost to a person, they've all told me they're stovepiped. They're not working with others to get maximum benefit for Richmond children that they could get. So those are external problems. Now let's go to need. The birth to 5 need, and again, we get to 5, which is kindergarten and kindergarten readiness. It's driven by poverty. We have 15,800 birth to 5 little ones in Richmond. Over 40% of them are living in poverty. That's a serious number. Now, 73% of these kids have both parents working. Now, the data that comes after this is from the Urban Institute. And what the Urban Institute says, so it's national data, not Richmond data, is of the poverty parent family units, 40% of them are using informal care. Most likely a relative, but it could be a neighbor. 28% use family care, licensed and unlicensed. 26% use center care, and that includes our RPF, Head Start, BPI, as well as private centers. Now, this is not going to add up to 100 because 35% use a combination of these things, because the feature of low income work is you don't have a fixed schedule. Your schedule changes all the time, so they have to have multiple ways to care for their children. Now, the next data, and it's the data I used throughout the rest of the presentation, was put out by the State Department of Education in May 2022. So it's very, very current data, and the most current that was available. So when you're looking for targets for us, this next little chart tells you that from birth to 2 or 3, Head Start, VPI, Richmond Public Schools, they're not there, right? So that's a nice target for us that we could come in and be helpful with. Now, by 4, 5, those institutes are enormously present. And in Richmond, it's 96% of that low income that are involved in one of a multitude of systems. But those programs end in the summer, June 9th for 2023. And for children under 6, summer slip, are you familiar with the term summer slip? Children under 3 have 3 times the summer slip of children over 6. So that gap between June 9th, 2023 and end of August, when school starts, that's troublesome for these little ones. The other thing I'll mention, because I learned so many fun facts, is brain growth from 0 to 2.5, 80% of the brain growth. So the real pivotal period of time. Now, your next slide, again, poverty is our driver, but if you look at Richmond, you see that our Hispanic community is right now 13.9% of all children 0 to 4. What this chart doesn't tell you is that the fastest growing category for 0 to 4. Now let's talk kindergarten, okay? So kindergarten readiness is decided by 4 factors: math, literacy, social skills, and self-regulation. In the state, 42% of our kindergarten age ready are not prepared on those 4 measures. Hold on to your horses. In Richmond, that number is 56.9%, not ready to go to kindergarten. Am I making my point about why birth to 5 is really a critical period of time? But let's not deal with all 4 categories. Let's just deal with literacy, because we really rock when it comes to literacy. And the next set of slides is our PAL data. Now, for African Americans, Blacks, it's not really bad. Not what we want, but it's about 33% in literacy of children are not ready to go to kindergarten. For Hispanic Latino children, it is over 16%. And of course, this spells all kinds of problems for those children. So if you did data-driven decision making, and the targets you would pick are the targets that I picked. Again, I am not I am not Sharon, who knows everything. I am not Barbara, who knows everything. But just from the data, I would tell you our targets are birth to 2 to 3, the summer before kindergarten. Again, 56.9% of those children aren't ready to go to kindergarten. Let's crank them up. And the Hispanic and Latino population. Now, what the heck should we be doing? We have good programs. We really need to strengthen those programs. And we can do that by 1, amplifying our effort with partners. And that's the A in my AIM. 2, by initiating new efforts. And 3, by doing more. So I'm going to give you examples in all 3 of those. So I looked at 22 libraries that throughout the country that do an amazing job in early learning. And every time I saw a program I liked, I wrote it down. I didn't follow up with the library, but I had a list of things I loved. One was from the Des Moines Library, and what Des Moines Library did is, through the hospital, every new mother gets a hardback book for their little child, and on the back was a sticker with the website for the baby programs at the library. I thought, God, if birth to 2 to 3 is our target, that's a great program. So I mentioned it to a little cohort that's helping Beth and I, and they say, oh, well, there's a group that already gives them books. I said, oh, could we talk to them about just putting a sticker on it? basement that has the library baby story time section. So that would be an example of an amplifying. Somebody already done something. We're gonna make that more effective by adding our voice to it. We're also working with the VCU Early Learning School to send over students. Again, they have students need practical experience. We need someone to cut out those trees and pumpkins and, whatever else needs to be done. That's a great collaboration. So that's amplify. We cool with what that's all about? Okay, initiate. Summer prep for rising kindergartners. 2 of the libraries that I looked at the over 20 I examined, initiated for the first time a boot camp for kindergarten. One was a 6-week, once a week program. One was an 8-week, once a week program. They did call up those youth service managers. They said those both sold out instantly. Now they haven't evaluated to see if the kids are doing better or not, but it was, as a first launch, a real winner for the library. Clearly could meet the need that we have here in Richmond. We're also thinking about parent workshops for new mothers and for working with UVA Castle, their curriculum program on their streaming free curriculum. And the final one, do more. People work odd hours. We can't just have story time at 10:30 on Wednesday. We have got to have story times in weekend. We have to, maybe with dinner, have it on Friday night. We have to expand the excellent programming that we have so that we can reach the people that now cannot be served by us. So challenges. We have not had an early learning leader for 5 years. Okay. We have additional positions that we could enhance both at Maine and in other branches. We need people. Budget, got calculating, but I suspect we're talking hundreds of thousands, not 10,000, to bring the people in and to up our game. And we need to do a gazillion, I'm being really technical here, a gazillion times better at reaching the people with children who don't have the phonology, don't have the word knowledge, don't have all the things that they need to do well in life. Last point, thank God it's over. I am going to ask the LBOT to consider making 2 decisions. I don't care how you come, but here are the 2 decisions I think we need. One is to tell Scott, but I think Scott's for this, but if you're not, you need to tell us that you're not, because we're not going to do anything you don't want done. To tell Scott early learning is our priority. The plus for Scott is when he goes and says, I need new staff position because my board is making me do this. He's got additional, my mother said I had to, he's got additional support. But I'll let you think about this, Scott, but I would say all together on the table, we tell Scott this is the board priority. The second thing I would say is this is something wonderful to wrap into our advocacy pitch. Babies always sell. I mean, babies and puppies, you can't say no to them. Having this as a line item in all we do to get specifically brought out money to do better for our children in Richmond. Yeah. Think about it. And finally, if we do this, what might happen? Data-driven finding, but they're universal, not for Richmond. Is children who are ready for kindergarten are less likely to repeat a grade. They're better prepared academically for future grades. So you don't have that third grade bad test score problem. They are significantly more likely to graduate from high school. And they're going to become higher earners in the workplace.
I think that's excellent. You know, if you would like us to take some type of vote on the support behind that now, we can.
Okay, well,
I-
let
or if we
me,
want to have time to
I,
consider.
you know, I've sprung a lot of stuff on you. If you're ready to vote, fine. If you want time to think about it, if you have questions for me, if, you know, however you want to do it.
My view is you did a nice job 7 months back saying, I want to look at these are the concerns, okay? Come back with very clear, actionable items here that fit with what we've been talking about. It fits in very well with our strategic plan, I think. This is-
It does fit in with our number 2 issue is children and this. And it's not the only thing we do with children,
No.
but it's one of the things.
Yeah, and you know, I'd like to just add a couple of things while we're sort of kicking those around. You mentioned the panel's results, and they are a little concerning when you look at that. Having a wife who is a career switcher and along the way got a degree in reading specialist and understands that pretty well. I picked up a lot of it along the way. And honestly, when you look at the pals, that's sort of, I mean, the bar is there, but when we look at it and say, well, if all of them were at that PALS number, that's good. But it doesn't mean that these kids are just way out ahead. It just means that they're not behind if they're hitting that. It's a little like SOLs. You know, we're all happy when they make SOL, but we really want our kids doing better than a passing SOL. We want them doing a lot better. So it's actually even more dire and crystal painting in a way there. That we've got a lot of kids who may make it through the panels, but I was helping my wife do some the other day recently on something. And we were trying to figure out, so where was the disconnect between the ones who are doing well on reading passages and yet not able to recognize words? And you know, you say this is an odd one. It's some, you know, you just get that kind of thing. So there's still that number that you see there, it's actually larger. We can reach out to a bigger group and help that better. You talked about health and literacy, and I think it's absolutely where our focus is. But once again, from a education perspective, my view is we help them in those kind of programs that you're talking about. The boot camp one, excellent example of that. You're also getting them through some of that. What was the social aspect?
Self-regulation and social skills.
The social skills, right? It really helps that tremendously. So it's not just literacy that we're hitting, that we are really getting kids to understand that they have to be able to listen a little bit. They have to be able to contribute in a controlled and manner, and yet they should contribute, that they shouldn't feel, you know, too quiet either. You know, we have those types of things. And I think that that's often a problem in the kindergarten. The kids who aren't prepared. They're really bright, but just don't know how they're supposed to be in the classroom. And when we do that, so I think that's another thing that we're getting out of your program area. If we can effectively do some of this. I think you're right about the numbers. I don't think this is a $10,000 problem either.
No, this is a big problem.
It is, to do it right, you know, when you start talking hundreds of thousands, that's not even that many staff positions. You know, you can use up 100,000 pretty quickly on staff. So I think we do need to recognize that we shouldn't, when Chris said this is hundreds of thousands, we shouldn't say, oh, that's the problem, we can't do it. Okay, this is a reasonable type of thing. Any program that we put on is going to reach 9 branches, kids all across the community. However many of those 15,800 or whatever that we're trying to get to, you're not going to do that on a shoestring. So I think that we as a board need to commit to going out there and making the pitch and getting that money. I really think this. So I'm fine. If somebody wants to make a motion voting, I'm fine waiting.
Well, let's ask, are there other questions?
Like, okay,
Let-
what
let-
other?
Yeah, I have a question. The early learning leader, is that a system-wide role?
And we had a early learning coordinator back in 2017. And that person left and the position became unfunded.
And then what are the other positions we be looking at to support?
We need to add more people to the mix to support what we want to do. So,
What they call children's librarians?
But that's gonna work on the ground, Jack, our library associates.
yeah,
Children's services, and, the majority of the folks we have filling those roles now, even though the position itself is not a master of library science required position. The majority of them we have are indeed, professional librarians, degree librarians. And, you know, the difference between, when, we did have the early literacy, person in place is also at that time, there was support from the city as a whole. There was the Kellogg grant was going on and a number of different things. There was a lot of talk being given to the city hall. And so that's kind of changed the complexity of it as well. We, when we were working with the balanced scorecard system, gosh, 8 years ago or so, the PAL scores were actually a metric that was used in a poor one at that, because it was kind of difficult for us to make that correlation that, you know, it was doubtful we were going to see that really show us anything. But the good thing is, everything that Chris has shared is that we continue to do what we're doing in-house, which is, you know, very much a huge part of what we do. But that larger program out there, you know, the partnerships are local, but there's not a big push. And you know, my question that I would have is just, I was curious, in terms of the higher percentage of Hispanic community, are they citing language, immigration status, or just, you know, the schools not having something in place to?
So they don't cite reasons why the Hispanics are
Okay.
doing poorly. They do cite reasons why people do poorly in literacy, and English knowledge is one of the reasons. There's several of them. Disabilities is one of the, there's several, but they don't say what the specific problem
Yeah,
is.
and, you know,
with
that's
Hispanics.
very concerning, considering that we've come through a time, and I wouldn't be comfortable saying we're past it, but what happened was we had a lot of patrons that all of a sudden were afraid to come in the library, because for better or worse, they know we're connected with the government. They know we're a government agency. And that, you know, I think that's changing, but that really was,
Oh,
it was
yeah,
obvious. what
yeah,
was
there's a
happening,
lot of problems with doing this right.
Right, yeah.
I was talking about forming a partnership with Richmond Public Schools, because you have, you know, Judy Langston, you have the coordinator of preschool education, and you also have, you know, the lead.
Right.
Pulling the
Right.
ELL, you know,
Right. Right, right,
you have lead coordinator.
right.
You also have resources in the community. One of the best places to get to is the Sacred Heart Center.
You are 100% right. You are 100% right.
I mean, are we talking about forming partnerships with these, you know, Richmond Public Schools and Sacred Heart, or putting people in those places? Or
So I honestly didn't do an implementation plan. I would be delighted if I could work with Beth Morris to work out. I think it is what's right in what situation. RPS preschool, absolutely, we have to do as much support as possible. But I honestly, Sharon, don't know what that looks like. kind of believe that I'll provide some ideas, but the library children's person has to know what's right for the different branches.
You know, before we set out in a program, I would advise a meeting that at least, you know,
Yeah,
the folks in RPS, because they have some things going on that we can support. And,
yeah, and
enhance
yeah, no, I agree
bringing
completely.
something new in that they would have to start over.
Yeah, no, I agree completely.
One of the ways that you can really step in, you have more contact and, just knowledge of how to handle the school system, how to navigate. the school
But
system.
she's already provided,
So-
Sharon's already provided us.
Like I said,
Yeah.
even though.
She's
you
already
sit down and
stepped up
go over
there.
Some of this today.
No, she didn't do this, but.
Right, no, I'm
yeah,
saying, but sitting down with some of
Right.
this.
No,
Chris,
of
and saying,
course.
How
Oh,
do we do
of course.
this? I think.
Barbara was really helpful
Right.
too. Yeah,
Setting up well, my daughter is the interim director for innovation and intervention for Richmond School, so when do you want to have?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. This was not an implementation. What should we do? It's, should we make this a priority?
I'll also just add in that even having additional staffing would go really far. During this past month, Ripple was all around, and my son and I went to the only Saturday event that was, you know, it was publicized, and the turnout was really great. It was a really good event. Families hung out at the library afterwards. It was at the West End Branch Library. But it seemed like people were coming from all over. It was a great event. But Saturday events like that are so uncommon. So just, you know, it's really easy to imagine how much additional staff of, you know, to implement current programs would really do, because my son wants to go back, you know, he wants his Ripple, he has a picture taken with Ripple, and he's like already motivated to come back. So we need more Ripples, yeah, all over the city.
And another kind of off the grid, but national parks, you know, they have programs and centers and people bring the little kids in there.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Yeah, no, that's a
even
good
set
idea.
up a little library in there, or, you know, have
Mhm,
reading times in the open parks, and those are in many cases closer, especially, you know, like the south side, the branches are so spread out. But, you know, Rankin Parks, a lot of times they will have centers in schools.
I think that,
They,
and I did not talk to them, but I think Rex and Parks are a natural, we all have the exact same value system. Great idea.
And I might mention, I was talking to Peyton before the meeting, and they sort of hit on that with the community.
Yeah, so currently right now with those happening, they partner with the Ann Harvey Community Center every Tuesday. We go around 11. We do story time with them. Little partnership with them. Sheet them over there. And it works really well. We have parents coming out there on a regular. You know, they slowly trickle in here. We slowly trickle in there. I'm gonna steal your idea about the library over there too. And see how she feels about that. But yeah, I can definitely say working with Parks, Rex and Parks is very good, very cohesive. It builds a deep relationship with not just like us and Rex and Parks, but with the community.
And
They
that's
know-
the point. Yeah,
They know when they see,
Yeah.
they see someone from the library there, they're like, oh, we're all, you know, Richmond's all together again. So yeah, I would definitely say Rex and Parks is, all we have to do is just go over there, just talk to them. They'll be more than down for whatever.
Are those community centers generally 7 days a week, or what's their schedule?
many of them are 5 days a week if they're in a school, but, you know, all the sports programs are usually the weekend events, you know, so they're not in the center, they're out playing on the field. So usually during the week, but you also have tons of day sports, right? And, you know, I know some of them will bring their kids into a library for free time or something, but those who don't, why don't we have a package? You know, with technology now, it doesn't make sense for us not to have a bank of someone reading stories that they can get off YouTube, you know, and, you know.
although I'll disagree with you there, but if you push back, I'll say you're right. But the data shows that it is a person and a child, not the YouTube. YouTube is entertainment, YouTube is not. Learning the way an adult has, especially a parent. So when we're thinking about birth to 3, a parent or caregiver can do with children.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, but, you know, then that also bring them in here. So to expose them to something. You know?
Yeah,
I mean, we had Captain Kangaroo, and, you know, we said then we related to him.
Yeah.
You know, we had triple reading, you know, every nursery school in Richmond, tune into triple reading. I mean, it would be some exposure rather than
Yeah.
not.
we actually had, BPM is interested in working with us on something like that. But again, I didn't do implementation, I just build relationships.
There's something about it, the question, so under your aims, that you had an example of how to do more. And I think we kind of do that on the need to look at creative hours, you know, the weekends and evenings. I don't know so much about evenings for that age, but I know definitely weekends, because the little people are you know, trying to get them on some kind of regular schedule that.
Right.
They should be putting it, you know, for share. But I think that would be a way that as we start into this new coming way of advocacy, and we could say, this is why we would need this money, we would need to do like, we want to do weekend hours, because I don't think any of our city council persons would say no to this, because they already know what the need is on the RPS. So I think it would be one of those next projects, but I think we could show that there's a need for it, because like you said, with the hours that this population of people work, I mean, the correlations, I think we can make to help our city council persons understand why the library is trying to expand and then that we can show that we're actually doing it. You know, like we said, we're going back this time to city council persons saying, thank you what we did, this is how we implemented. I think that also continues to build that relationship with them.
And it's our top 2 issues on our strategic plan: accessibility, keeping the library open, and children. So it's it continues to have us drive strategically to help the people of Richmond. Any other questions? Comments? Do we want to vote on this now or not? Do we want to?
What the proposal, what exactly?
We're voting on telling Scott early learning is his priority, that he's to develop for us a budget and start to push staffing. And that we incorporate early learning into our advocacy campaign. Those are, and they're separate issues. You can vote yes on one and no on another.
The other thing I think about is the program that we have, RVA, that's like a hidden gem, and you just see that the foundation was able to get $60,000, telling the community, this is what the library does. I think that's already, we have a foot in the door in this area, maybe better than some other groups, but I think when we go, we can say, you know, this is what we have, we need to do more, we want to do more, the data shows that, but we have some credentials that say, yeah, this is what we do, right?
Right, and that program is back where it belonged all along. They pulled it out from the library for a short period of time when they were trying to establish the opportunity wealth building as a separate agency. But yeah, that's 100% correct. I mean, it's a great program, and because to be frank about it, your scheduled in-house story time, unless you got daycares coming in or classes from private schools or what have you, it's a privilege sort of thing. I didn't have anybody that could take me to a story time at the library at 10:30 on a Tuesday. My parents were otherwise engaged. That's why we see that, in other words, our story time provision and our reaching out looks very different between, our branches.
Right. Right.
You know.
And
so-
we would, and there might be some issues we don't have system-wide. Instead, we have in specific
Right,
branches.
but
Yeah.
yeah, 100%, I mean, there isn't that
Right.
big
Right.
focus,
Right.
beyond the library right
Yeah.
now that could be very beneficial.
Yeah, and I'll just mention, one of the ways to get to these low-learning parents who reading might be troublesome themselves is to have them bring their kids to the library. Alright, so we begin to help the family, which I love that idea.
Is there any, so it sounds like we are rightly asking for this to be made a priority to find additional resources to support these programs. It doesn't sound like we are, there's a tradition of libraries of asking librarians to do more and more without providing them with resources,
Exactly.
or without asking them not, to stop doing something else. It sounds like we are focused on finding that additional resources rather than, rather than making.
Okay, I will
cuts to other
beg,
areas
I'll
of that-
beg to differ with that. We did get an additional $500,000 for this year's budget. I would tell Scott, hire an early learning person with that money. Don't wait for next year. So, yeah, there's certain things that I would say we need to get in place now in order to do what we want to do. And I suspect there's fun.
I think I was thinking of any reason why this wouldn't be a good idea to make this a priority, and it sounds like we have
Right.
the resources are being accounted for.
The only thing I will say is we don't want to start this at the expense of the accessible.
Of course not.
So I mean, if
Of course.
if that money is what's necessary to get us open those hours, we got it because we're gonna open those hours. We cannot go back to our council
No,
people and
of
say,
course not.
well, we didn't quite get open when we said we would because we spent money elsewhere.
But I
We do
did-
need to deliver.
So
on
when
that.
I talked to Beth, she said she would like, the natural launch is summer 2023. Summer is our season at the library. It is reading time for children. We might be a little premature, but not a lot premature. So that is her goal if we agree to make this a priority. So the timing, I think, would make you comfortable.
One question on the challenge. You said that this position was, frozen. Is it still is it still a position that we have, the, early learning position?
I've been told that we didn't have positions in at the beginning of the year, they're gone. So we had 89 positions in 2019, this year we started with 69.5 positions. So we have to advocate for the positions that we want. We've only been allocated the funding for the 69.5 positions. So if we want more positions, we have to make the case in this budget for it. That's a position that was lost. So we have to make the case in this upcoming budget to restore that funding to that position.
And it helps Scott if the board tells him he has to restore that position.
Now they'll also say, well, you have money in your budget, you have vacancy funding. So we have positions that are vacant from the beginning of the fiscal year. And I'll say, well, you can prioritize how you want to do that. So if you want to fund that position, then I have to sacrifice other positions that I have. So I could activate the funding for that position, but that may mean we don't have 2 library associates somewhere, or we don't have 2 library technicians somewhere, or 3 library technicians. That's probably what that position would cost. Does that make sense to everyone? So it's, it's trade-offs, it's sacrifices. That would
We
be like what
trust
Bill
your
just said.
ability
Yeah.
to
Right.
sweet talk all those people.
But this is an excellent strategy. I love that. These are things that, this is something our library needs, first to 5 is where we need to be a champion. I've always said that, that's the audience we have, and we have to make that investment. Investment is resources and people and time. So those are all the things that we're doing. And this strategy is great. We have many partnerships. We can build upon those and make them stronger. The partnerships have suffered over the last 5 years because all of those champions left. We had a pandemic. We've had all kinds of things happen. That's something we want to do. We do need more people for it. We don't have enough people dedicated to it. We should have double the amount of story times we have. We've got double the amount of programs. We should be getting out there and doing per birth to 5. When 80% of the brain develops between birth to 3, that's huge. We should be in that space. Richmond Public Schools does an awesome job. They are challenged to educate age 6 to 18. That's what their focus is. They put a lot of effort into early childhood, but they cannot possibly put the effort into it that we could probably do. I'm not saying supplant them, I'm saying support them. And that's what we can definitely do. And so we do need to do more. So I'm 100% behind this. How we do it, we have to raise our capacity.
Yeah, we gotta
have
figure
to
it out.
raise up-
Not implementation. Yeah.
We have incredibly talented people that
Yeah.
want to do more. This isn't, well, I'm not at, they want to do more. I just don't have enough love on right now. They would love to do more. But we have to support them to do it.
So to some extent, we're saying that money's the issue on this. It's so
Money's
often is.
always the
It's so often is,
Yeah.
but that from the board's perspective, from your perspective, the board can give you the charge that this is a priority. That you can, when we're advocating with people, and then when you're asking, but to say that my board is saying, we need to find a way to do it. And I have this position overall, and I've got 18 more that I need to fill to really do this right, because I need a couple per branch that I don't have right now. To be able to run story times on Tuesday morning, Friday afternoon, Saturday, 11, whatever, and also I need people to be able to send out to the community center to do this. And if we have one person in each branch, because it half an FTE, they can, in those 20 hours, get to X number of daycares on a weekly basis, for example. So we're sort of saying money isn't necessarily there right now, but
That's why it's part of advocacy. Yeah.
that we are behind Scott going and asking to do this, to implement this.
And we are prepared to incorporate it into our advocacy campaign for next year's budget.
And it's a compelling
You
case.
said it very well. Yeah.
And I think it's actually the right one, Pat. It's not just as it is the advocacy needed because it's the right thing. I actually think it's the right thing for advocacy. That it,
I think it is the right thing.
Right, I mean-
Babies and puppies, they
Right.
always win. Yeah.
yeah, that's like the hour. Accessibility. We needed accessibility. It's also the one that people could see.
Everyone loved. Yeah.
I think this fits that well. So do we want to take a quick just show of hands, or anybody opposed to?
Let's do a show of hands as to how many people think this is a theme for advocacy and a priority for the library. Is that fairly put? Do you want to use different words?
So
I like it as a priority. That's my favorite.
we're showing our support for the concept, like.
And to incorporate it in advocacy.
Here's how much it costs us to.
Right, we'll figure out how to.
And if we don't make it a priority and tell Scott to price it out for us, we don't even know what to ask.
Right.
So we sort of need that.
Right. And we need Beth to figure out the what, then, to price things out. Yeah.
Favor? Okay. And we're good, Scott. Another charge for you.
Got another problem for you to deal with. Yay.
All good.
Okay, Chris, thank you. That was just excellent. A lot of good information. And I think, like I said, it's a great follow-up to your initial review of that. Is there any other new, we have no unfinished business that I know about. Is there any new business anyone wants to bring up before we? One thing I will quickly mention, like next month here, The October 26th meeting is at Maine. We're trying to go to the once a month at Maine, I mean, one month at Maine, 1 month out in the field, back to Maine, so on, the way we work on. And I think it worked well for us. to do that. We're back at Maine next month. That's all I have, so you can ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Chris, thank you, and a second, Sharon, Janet, everyone's ready to second now. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all so much.
Anyone would like to look at the stormwater project that we did, I'm happy to show you the garden. that we put in. Details of it. Janet was actually out here helping us dig and plant trees.
It's not walked around there.
Doesn't it look nice?
Look gorgeous. I like all the milkweed. That'll be a winner.
We've got to get our pollen, you notice the